Hey there, my friend. You know, every once in a while, I like to go back and watch one of those old science fiction classics, the kind that defined an era. And War of the Worlds from 1953, oh man, that one's special. It's not just another alien invasion flick. This thing was a turning point in Hollywood sci-fi. So grab your coffee, or something stronger, because I've got 12 weird and wonderful facts about War of the Worlds 1953 that'll make you see it in a whole new light. Ready? Let's dive in. 1. The Martian machines were supposed to walk on visible beams. You won't believe this one. When they first designed the Martian war machines, the filmmakers actually wanted them to walk on visible energy beams, like glowing legs. Can you imagine that? Floating saucers gliding on colored laser legs across the battlefield? But there was just one problem. Pulling that off in the early 50s was basically impossible. The special effects tech just wasn't there yet, and it looked, well, a little silly. So, they scrapped the idea and made them float instead, giving them that eerie, silent glide we all remember. Honestly, I think it was a happy accident. That hovering effect still looks cool today. 2. The war machines were built from copper, then recycled. Here's a wild one. Those iconic Martian war machines? They were handcrafted from real copper sheets. Each one was over 6 feet wide, shining under the studio lights. They looked absolutely otherworldly on set. But once filming wrapped, the studio didn't keep them for display or anything like that. Nope. They were melted down for scrap metal. Apparently a local copper drive was going on, and the props got donated. Imagine that. Priceless movie history gone to recycling. Somewhere out there, your grandma's old pot might have once been part of a Martian death machine. 3. The design was inspired by a manta ray and a cobra. Most alien ships in the 1950s were round flying saucers. Very little green men stuff. But War of the Worlds wanted to stand out, so production designer Albert Nozaki came up with something totally different. A manta ray-shaped machine with a long neck and a cobra-like head that shot deadly heat rays. That's what gives it that unique, elegant menace, not just another UFO zipping around. The design was so good that Steven Spielberg even paid tribute to it in his 2005 remake. Those sweeping movements and ominous silhouettes, straight from Nozaki's vision. Pretty cool, right? 4. The heat ray sound came from backward electric guitars. Okay, here's something that'll make every music lover grin. The terrifying heat ray sound effect. You know, that rising whoosh that vaporizes tanks and soldiers wasn't made with any fancy synthesizers. Nope, it was 3 electric guitars, recorded backwards. The sound engineers strummed and played the notes, flipped the tape around, and added a few echo layers. They even mixed in the metallic twang from hitting a steel cable with a hammer, and somehow it worked. That unearthly, hair-raising sound became one of the most recognizable effects in sci-fi history. Just goes to show, creativity beats budget any day. 5. The aliens lost to the smallest enemy possible. You know this one, but it's too good not to talk about. The Martians come to Earth, blast our cities, wipe out the military, and what brings them down? Germs. Yep, the tiniest organisms on the planet. It's one of the greatest twists in science fiction. Humanity doesn't win because we're brave or smart. We win because Earth's bacteria kills the invaders. It's poetic, really. H.G. Wells wrote that over 50 years before antibiotics even existed, and it still hits hard today. Every time I see that ending, I just think, nature always gets the last laugh. 6. They accidentally bought the rights for a silent movie. Now, this one's hilarious. When Paramount first started production, they hit a major snag. Turns out, the studio only had the rights to make a silent version of War of the Worlds. Yeah, no dialogue, no sound, nothing. They started prepping a talkie version anyway, not realizing the contract didn't cover it. Once the lawyers figured it out, production had to be halted until they renegotiated with H.G. Wells's estate. Imagine that, a big-budget alien invasion movie with no sound. Can you picture the Martians attacking in complete silence? It would have been terrifying, for the wrong reasons. 7. There's a hidden Woody Woodpecker cameo. You've probably missed this one, but it's such a charming Easter egg. In the early part of the movie, when the Martian cylinder first crashes, look closely at one of the trees. There's a tiny wooden Woody Woodpecker perched on a branch. Producer George Pal slipped it in because he was good friends with Woody's creator, Walter Lantz. It became a running joke. Pal hid Woody in several of his films, like When Worlds Collide and The Time Machine. It's a little inside joke from one filmmaker to another, and it gives the movie a wink of personality that I love. 8. Half the budget was spent on special effects. This blew my mind. The total budget was around $2 million, huge money for 1953, and about $1.4 million of that went just to special effects. Think about that. They built those ships, created matte paintings, explosions, miniature cities, and elaborate optical effects, all by hand. No CGI. Every single detail was a physical effect. And honestly, you can feel it. Those glowing Martian eyes and vaporizing beams have a tactile quality that modern effects sometimes lack. It's one of the reasons this movie still holds up 70 years later. 9. The force field took 144 separate paintings to create. Remember those scenes where the Martian ships seem invincible, bullets bouncing off an invisible shield? That force field wasn't done with computers, obviously. They used 144 individual matte paintings layered together to create that effect. It's painstaking work, each one painted on glass, then photographed frame by frame. Imagine the patience it took. One small mistake and the whole sequence would have to be redone. So next time you watch that scene, just think every shimmer of that shield is literally painted by hand. 10. The opening planet montage left out Venus. At the very beginning, there's that cool voiceover sequence showing paintings of all the planets, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and so on. But have you noticed Venus is missing? Back in 1953, scientists didn't really know what Venus looked like under its clouds. They assumed it might be habitable, but they had no concrete info. So the filmmakers just skipped it. They didn't want to guess wrong and look silly later. Looking back now, that was a smart move. Venus turned out to be a 900-degree furnace of acid clouds. Definitely not Martian real estate. 11. Star Trek borrowed its sound effects. Here's a fun connection. Years after War of the Worlds, those same eerie sound effects, especially the Martian death ray, were reused in Star Trek, the original series. That familiar whoomp sound of the photon torpedoes? That's straight from War of the Worlds. The influence of this movie stretched far beyond the 1950s. It practically set the tone for sci-fi sound design for decades to come. Pretty amazing how something recorded with guitars and steel cables became the sound of the future. 12. Religion played a bigger role than in the original novel. And finally, this one's more about storytelling. H.G. Wells's original book didn't lean much on religion, but the 1953 film did. It shows churches standing firm while cities fall, and the final scenes take place in a church where people pray for salvation. It was a very post-war American touch, blending faith, fear, and hope together. Some folks think it was Hollywood playing it safe for audiences back then, but I think it adds a touching human layer. After all, when everything's burning down around you, everyone reaches for something to believe in, whether it's science, fate, or faith. So yeah, that's War of the Worlds 1953 for you. A film made with heart, ingenuity, and a ton of copper. It might look dated by today's standards, but there's something magical about it. Those glowing Martian eyes, that haunting sound design, and the idea that sometimes survival doesn't come from strength, but from the smallest things we can't even see. What about you? Do you still enjoy these old sci-fi films, or do you think they've lost their magic? For me, they're timeless. If you enjoyed this little trip back in time, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. There's plenty more old Hollywood magic where this came from.